main reasons are because there are no affordable cars in the country and because they have to pay cash. Now, with this scheme in place, the problem of paying cash goes away. Now, in terms of affordable cars, we are encouraging all the OEMs to prioritize the assembly of affordable cars. That was why when Nissan started the assembly in April, they did SUV, commercial cars, but saloon cars that are priced between 1.7 and 2.3 million. On day, it's going to assemble theirs in July. It will be cheaper than the 1.7. Peugeot prioritized it. When they relaunched Peugeot Automobile under the new auto policy, they commissioned the production of Peugeot 301. So those are the things, two ways we're trying to address. And for them, it's important that they capture the used car market as well. So the incentive is there for them to produce affordable cars.
Talking about value chain, what are those areas that will be of benefit to Nigeria?
Many areas. Let me start by saying that with an average, the car business is a global business. There's no one country that says, I produce a made in Nigeria, a made in whatever car from beginning to end, because it's not commercial. It doesn't make sense. Some specialize in making engines, chassis, and all that. But there are at least roughly about 2,000 parts in a car. So there's opportunity for a lot of JV relationships and also SMEs to go into assembly of different parts of the car. As long as they meet with international standard, they will have the market to supply to local assemblers, but also we want to be able to export components, parts of these cars. So the idea is that when you look at cars today, cars are made up of steel, metal. They're made up of plastic. In fact, the plastic content is increasing every year. That's why cars are lighter today. And of course, there's a bit of textile there as well, and rubber. All those things, we have them in abundance in Nigeria. We have iron ore. We can go from iron ore to flat sheets. Today, we have at least 4 companies that are into the hot rolled coal sector, and we can move from iron ore to steel. So the Minister of Mines and Steel and I are working on that policy already. So you go to the value chain across there. We have the 8th largest reserve of gas. We can move from gas to petrochemicals to plastic. Innocent has done that. Today he employs, there's Innocent in Enugu. He employs close to about 4,000 plus people in Enugu. We want more people doing that to supply the industry. We have good rubber plantation in the country. We can move from rubber to tires. We're talking to the old players, Dunlop, Michelin, but there are other players that are in the sector. There are companies today that are producing batteries, glass, and all that. That is why this new policy, which is comprehensive, we are prioritizing setting up auto components park, where people will be manufacturing the components part of the different cars in the country. South Africa have done that extremely well. We're also encouraging the OEMs to encourage their JV partners to come and establish in Nigeria, partnering with Nigeria. So you see a lot of opportunities going forward. Don't forget that the auto sector in total employs about 9 million people globally. The auto sector accounts for about 5% of global manufacturing. And if you take South Africa as an example, the auto sector accounts for between 5% to 7% of their GDP, 12% of their export. South Africa is almost the only country in Africa that's exporting cars and spare parts to America under AGOA, which all of us can and should benefit from. And when you look at it, it's the second highest employer of labor. So that is just, and if you look at the balance of payment, the aim is to make sure that it's neutral. Unlike what we have today, where we're spending 3 billion on new cars, another 3 billion plus on used cars and parts. We cannot afford that. It's a structural defect in the economy. If we continue at this rate, for a country that is 170 million people, that will grow to the third largest in the world by 2070, a country that has a median age of 18 years, a country that has one of the fastest growing middle class, that number is going to increase significantly. It will be a strain on our foreign reserve, but more importantly, we will now specialize in paying salaries of workers in other countries that are producing cars for us. When we have a high level of unemployment, we cannot justify that as a government.
Now, the question now is, how sustainable do you think this policy will be? We know about the auto policy in the 1970s. When you leave office 5 years, 10 years down the line, do you think that this policy will remain?
Sustainability is critical to all the investors. In fact, there are some investors that are saying, we want to be in Nigeria, but we cannot come until we see the sign that you are ready and you're not going to change your policy again. So every little negative noise we make in the press doesn't help the program. Okay? But what has been done in other countries, which we have been encouraged to do, and which is part of the policy that was approved by the Federal Executive Council, is that this new policy, which is actually very comprehensive, much holistic, much bigger than what we had in the 70s, that it will be backed by law. I'm delighted to say that we have had the first reading at the Senate and House of Assembly. And we hope to make sure that the law is in place before the end of this administration.
Let me take you back to the finance scheme that we talked about earlier on. How much do you think that the federal government will be releasing for the uptake of this policy?
Well, that's a question that has been asked. The difference and the beauty of this, unlike the money that we put into the mass transit program, you recall that because we want to encourage mass transit in this country, in 2010, the federal government put in about 10 billion naira into it. That loan was made available to bus operators who bought buses at 5% interest rate. At the beginning of this administration, the president approved another 15 billion naira. That was made available to bus operators who now are encouraged to focus on buying assembled or made in Nigeria buses. And they are doing very well. Leyland buses, Ashok Leyland buses, Innocent buses, all of them at 0% interest rate. So government has done a lot. So you can say, okay, in total, that particular fund is 25 billion. This is different. This one, we're working with the private sector. We're working with the commercial bank. So it can be as big as they want it to be. So if it's successful, it's working, it can get much bigger than the 25 billion we're talking about. So we're working with them. They've bought into the scheme of a 4-year loan. Some of them are specialists in the sector. What we have done, our contribution to it, apart from making sure that we have a scheme, is to make sure that we put our money into it to make sure that the interest rate is down to about 10%. So that the average Nigerian who relies so much on second-hand used cars can buy new cars that are affordable with affordable money. So they'll pay over a 4-year period. I think that is one of the things that comes. There's a lot of things, skills development, there are a lot of things that comes with a policy. And I think, it's just a matter of time. Nigeria will see that this is a major policy that is going to have a major effect on the economy in terms of the way it transforms the economy. We must diversify our economy. We must diversify the revenue sources of our economy. And we must move from a country that's import dependent, a country that exports raw materials. Because the more you export raw materials, the poorer you become. History tells us that no country has managed to move from a poor to a rich nation by relying entirely on exporting raw materials without a strong industrial and services sector. The more you specialize in exporting raw materials, the poorer you actually become, and the more you're creating jobs outside the country.
And now to a business tidbits.
When you feel overwhelmed at work, you lose confidence and may become irritable or withdrawn. This can make you less productive and less effective on your job and make the work seem less rewarding. If you ignore the warning signs of work stress, they can lead to bigger problems. When stress at work interferes with your ability to perform in your job, manage your personal life, or adversely impacts on your health, it's time to take action. Start by paying attention to your physical and emotional health. When your own needs are taken care of, you're stronger and more resilient to stress. Analyze your schedule, responsibilities, and daily tasks. All work and no play is a recipe for burnout. Try to find a balance between work and family life, social activities and solitary pursuits, daily responsibilities, and downtime. When it comes to satisfaction and success at work, emotional intelligence is about communicating with others in ways that draw people to you, overcome differences, repair wounded feelings, and diffuse tension and stress. Many of us make job stress worse with negative thoughts and behavior. If you can turn around these self-defeating habits, you'll find employer-imposed stress easier to handle.
On this note, we wrap up Business Incorporated. We do appreciate your time with us on the program. Please, you can send us your comments and questions to businessincorporated@channelstv.com. And of course, you can join me on Twitter. Thank you for watching. I am Bolaji Akinwale.